that I'm with drunk driving. He didn't even know I fell out of the car. And I'm going, stop the car, stop. He went, oh, oh. And so I got up the next morning and I looked at myself and I was unrecognizable. I had road rash on my arms, my knees were all fucked up, my face was beat up from the... And I just said, you know, this drug and alcohol thing is not working for you. And so I went and got all my hair cut off. Not as short as yours, but not much longer. And that was it.
Well, you found your rock bottom.
Yeah.
That's what they say. They say you need to find rock bottom. I would never imagine that you would be the type of guy that would fuck with people at a bar and spit on somebody and start a fight. You just don't seem like that at all.
Well, I grew up in a small town, and there was not much to do in a small town. You know, you would either find a girl or fight. Just.
I figured you for the find the girl type of guy.
Well, you know, I did okay with that, but it didn't always work. So, yeah. Yeah, it was like, don't forget, Joe, it was like 1967, 66. You weren't even born yet.
I was born in 67.
Yeah, so this was like 1967.
Wow.
So, you know. So from that time on until I turned 21, I was 21 when I quit using drugs and quit smoking, quit drinking.
Wow. So nothing since then? That's impressive.
Well, you know, I didn't like it that much. You know, as much as I thought I did.
We certainly didn't like the results, right? One bad result.
What do you?
I'll set you straight.
Yeah. What do you? Yeah.
You were a big part of my high school experience. It was interesting because your song sort of introduced the idea of nostalgia to me. You know?
I don't know what that means.
Well, when you were singing songs like Jack and Diane, it's like I was kind of realizing as I was a very young guy, listening to those great songs, that there's gonna be this is a weird time in life, and there's gonna be a time where you're gonna look back on this, and it's probably one of the best times of your life.
My design hold up, that's the perfect time to
It
stick
felt,
with explosive.
you know, felt confusing and weird, and I remember thinking at the time, like, oh my God, like, is this as good as it gets? You know, some people look back on this weird, confusing time of adolescence as the happiest moments of their life. I'm like, I can't wait to get the fuck out of this time of my life. And it's like, you know, you were singing from a position of like an everyman position of, you know, you were singing nostalgia. There were great fucking songs. They had heart, and it was soul to them, but it was a lot of sadness, you know. A lot. Oh yeah, life goes on long after the thrill of living is gone. And I was like, oh Jesus Christ, life's gonna go. This is it.
This is it.
This is it.
Well, I struggled with that. Hoping like he did. You know, there's a point in a man's life where he feels like there's gotta be more life than this. I mean, I had huge hit records. Very, 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 very lucky. Very lucky. You know, everything was just, you know, I was just lucky. And I would go home and I would think, I'm not happy. There's gotta be more to life than this. There's not.
Right. What did you enjoy in the early days of MTV. I mean, you were a rock star when it became a totally different thing because it was like this visual thing that was in everyone's household now. It wasn't as simple as, you were on the Tonight Show and you would sing this musical segment and people would have to go see you live to go see you perform.
Oh, and all you got to see guys in rock bands with their album covers.
Mm-hmm.
You would go to a record store and file through the records, and if you liked the way a band looked, you would buy the record.
Yep.
At least I would.
I would too, yeah.
And so, I forgot the question.
Well, I was just saying, like, what was it?
Go to
What was
research and
not
demonstration.
good about that? I mean, what was that experience like, being this enormous rock star that left you feeling like you wanted more, that you weren't happy?
I think that for me, I think when that happens, it's the age you're at. And as you grow older, you kind of, and like I said, I just looked up and I just went, hey, this is all there is. Accept it. And try to show some humility and try to be good at it. I never thought about it again.
That's interesting. Well, you're a snap out of it type of guy, right? You snapped out of drugs and alcohol. You snapped out of feeling sorry for yourself.
Yeah.
That's a good trait to have.
Well, I'm very lucky that listen, Jake, you're looking at the luckiest fucking guy you've ever interviewed. I don't give a shit who you've interviewed. I'm the luckiest guy you know. I was born with spina bifida. Do you know what that is?
I don't.
That's where you have a hole in your spine, and the fluid and all of the nerve endings, like on me,
That scar is huge. In 1951, you got that operation? So, what did they do to what was that operation exactly?
they had the, here's the story. My parents were only 20 years older than me. So I was born deformed. What are we going to do with this kid? So they just went like that to my grandmother. Here, you take it. And so I was in the hospital, and there were 4 other kids, and there was a young doctor named Heinberger who was just a young neurosurgeon. Don't forget, neurosurgery in 1951 was in its... So he just said, well, we've got to try to do something with these kids. And so he operated on all of us. I was on the lid.
Oh boy.
You know, the fact that... And he charged my parents $1. Because it was an experiment. I was like a guinea pig. And these other poor kids who had the same thing I did, they all died within, 6 months. I remember seeing one girl that made it till she was 14 and she was in a wheelchair. I would see her basketball games, and my parents would not see a girl that had the same ability you did, and she died. So my whole life has been full of luck. I mean, I'm not supposed to be here.
What did they do during the operation? What is the procedure?
Well, they have to cut your head off, for starters. They had to cut my head and lay it open to get to my spine, and then they would push each individual nerve ending back down into my spine, drain the fluid off, sew it back up, and make sure that everything was working. And they told my parents, here he is, he's probably going to die get encephalitis and his head's going to fill up with water. We don't anticipate him living much more than 6 or 7 months. And I think I was in 5th grade. I didn't even know I had the operation. Some kid in my class said, "Hey, Malik, that was that big scar in the back of your neck." Don't forget, now we're talking 1957, 58, 60, maybe. I didn't even know there was a scar back there. You know.
Wow.
Kind of like my parents never told me. So I came home and I asked my old man, I said, "Dad, what's with the scar in the back of my neck?" And he goes, "Oh, don't worry about it. You had the operation when you were born." So I did it. I played football, I ran track, I fought, you know, everything that every other kid did without a thought of that. Not until I got older and I had started having panic disorder. I thought maybe the panic disorder was from that operation.
How old when you started having panic disorder?
I was just out of college. I could remember. What's that?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I had agoraphobia for about a year and a half. And then I got a record deal, and I had to leave the house. I was married. I was school. The girl I was married to was 5 years older than me. You know,
How old were you?
18.
18?
Yeah,
You had a kid, right? You had a kid real young?
yeah, she's 50-something now.
Wow.
I have 3 girls and 2 boys.
Were you a grandfather when you were in your 30s?
Maybe.
I think you were, right?
Yeah.
NFL playoffs, let's go. DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, makes every moment feel bigger. A running back runs through the line, a strip sack flips the field, a tight end hauls in the kind of touchdown grab we'll talk about for postseason games shift fast, and with DraftKings betting options, you can stay right in the moment. Plus, DraftKings has your back with early exit protection. If the player in your eligible NFL prop bet goes down at any point in the first half, you still get paid in cash. New customers bet just $5, and if the bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets instantly. DraftKings Sportsbook, every drive, every play, every moment. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use the code ROGAN. That's code ROGAN to turn $5 into $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-OPEN-Y or text OPEN-Y 467-369. In Connecticut, call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, pass-through of per-wager tax may apply in Illinois. 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Restrictions apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets which expire in 7 days. Minimum odds required. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. Limited time offer.
Because that oldest daughter of mine got married when she was like 19. Wow. Not much to do in a small town.
Yeah.
Not much to do. So, that's fine to do for her.
But it never bothered you again other than the panic? Were you performing when you were having the panic stuff?
Oh man, I have been on stage in front of like 20,000 people and had a panic attack.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's like, have you ever had one?
No.
Because you feel like, I can't breathe. My chest hurts. And
I've seen it. I've seen people have them. It's horrific. You can't do anything for them. You're like, are you okay? You think they're having a heart attack. You think they're dying.
yeah, well, I've been on stage and I remember having to plant my feet and just power through, you know, in front of 20,000 people, and it was awful.
Did it pass while you were on
Yeah.
stage?
I don't know if it did. I just remember it happening numerous times. And then guess what happened? I had a fucking real heart attack on stage at Jones Beach like 30 years later.
Oh, Jesus.
I know. So, but you know what that heart attack led to? I just married Elaine, Earl, and we had 2 little boys, and I got to I said, fuck it, I'm going to die. I didn't know about heart disease. I'm going to die, so I'm going to spend the last couple of years of my life with those little teeny guys, which I'll tell you a story about them and you. So I got to actually kind of not be in the music business, which pleased me.
How old were you when you had your heart attack?
42.
Oh, jeez.
And so I got to stay home. I stayed home for 3.5 years. Elaine didn't model, and we just, we had TV shows we watched, which is unheard of in my life. Like, hey, it's Thursday night. Let's watch this. Which is where you come in. So the boys were little, and they loved your show. They loved your fucking show. And I was kind of like, I don't know if the kids should be watching this,
You talking about Fear Factor?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if the kids should be watching this. So I made a deal with them. All right, you guys, you can watch this show, but you have to watch 60 Minutes too. So if you're going to watch this, then you got to watch 60 Minutes, and they obliged, which surprised the hell out of me. But it was like, Dad, 60 Minutes on. Dad, Fear Factor's on. I know. So we would watch it together. I mean, how lucky is that?
Well, it sounds like it was a blessing in disguise.
Yeah. Well, that's
It gave you a pause.
You know what luck is?
What?
Thinking you're lucky.
Yeah.
What you think about yourself all comes true. I wrote it in a song once. What you think about yourself will come true. So if you call yourself a dumbass, guess what? You do it enough, and your brain starts believing.
What caused your heart attack at such a young age?
Me being stupid. I would go in to get physical, and they'd go, John, your cholesterol is off the charts.
I had no idea what damn medical was.
And I would go, am I all right now? And they'd go, well, yeah, you're all right now. Good.
I have to look it up.
So I didn't know about medicine. And statin drugs have just become just reinvented. People started using statins, and I didn't take them. I didn't know what they were.
I don't know where this is.
I know all about heart disease now.
Did you
That's
have
me. Yeah. And it runs in my family. I have a sister that has, or she used to, but she doesn't
It's
anymore.
gotta be
Her
downstairs.
cholesterol is higher than imagine. That's like crazy.
Cholesterol is a very controversial subject now because people are starting to try to sort out what is the actual cause of heart disease. And there's a lot of people that don't believe it's cholesterol. They think it's arterial plaque. And what is that stuff called? Nattokinase? I don't know how to pronounce it. But there's a supplement, like an over-the-counter supplement in a very profound way.
I don't know, but
It's clogging of it.
listen, I was in New York. The doctor in Bloomington just put me on metformin. What's the side effects from metformin? And this guy, Joe's the guy, he made longevity. And he said if it was up to me, I'd put the entire United States on metformin and a statin.
No more combat food. Probably try to extract.
Yeah.
It's processed, it's this and that, and he just said the human body was not meant to eat this crap.
That's a fact.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the solution is probably eating food you're meant to eat. But metformin is one of those drugs that longevity doctors recommend. I've never been on it, but I know quite a few people that have. I think, isn't it a diabetes drug initially?
Not
Yeah.
80s. So I was always borderline, and I'm still borderline, and this was...
She get type 1 or type 2?
Well, she started out with 2, and then she paid no attention to it, wouldn't take her medicine. We'd go out and buy Krispy Kreme, but she'd... Don't tell your dad! Okay. And she'd get a half a dozen, Krispy Kremes and eat them, and it's just...
That's where it's at. It's a horrible thing that we've done in this country. This is the most controversial thing about RFK. One of the most controversial things is all the stuff that's going on in a lot of European countries.
I had a friend who had not ever been in the United States and got sick.
Mm-hmm.
Just from eating.
Just eating our food.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Just our bread. What is that supplement? How do I say it? Can you find out what it's supposed to do? Like what? Because there's a recent study. So that's it. Nattokinase supplementation can significantly reduce the size of existing arterial plaques and slow the progression of arteriosclerosis. I never say that word. Arteriosclerosis. Atherosclerosis?
I hate that fucking gun.
Whatever. Particularly at higher doses. Nattokinase and arterial plaque reduction. Multiple clinical trials provide evidence that nattokinase, an enzyme derived from fermented Japanese food natto, has a positive effect on arteriosclerosis, hardening and narrowing of the arteries due to plaque buildup. Yeah, so folks, go take that stuff. High dose supplement shrinks arterial plaque by 36%. Very interesting stuff.
Yeah.
And it's a very common supplement. It's an easy to get supplement, and it comes from fermented food.
Mm-hmm. Well, I've watched a lot of things about the food that we eat, and
terrible. Well, a bunch of monsters decided to make more money, and the way they make more money is to throw a bunch of preservatives and bullshit and stuff in the food so that it keeps their shelf life as long as possible.
You've heard those stories about taking it's just putting it in a box and leaving it for 5 years, and 5 years later it's...
Oh, yeah.
Some of my grandkids were at my house on Defusky, and they had an ice cream sandwich. And they only ate half of it. And it sat there for 3 hours and did not melt.
Yeah, I've seen those. Yeah, that's not ice cream.
That's not ice cream.
I don't know what the fuck's in there, but it's not regular ice cream. The Burger King or the McDonald's hamburger thing is nuts. Because what is the longest that guy, there's one guy that's had one on a shelf at his house for, I want to say it's close to 10 years or something crazy like that. It's just sitting there. And you would think that he got it 5 hours ago.
Yeah.
And we're supposed to be eating that.
Yeah.
And for a lot of people, that's a big portion of their diet is fast food, which is just crazy. You're just sucking down all these chemicals and preservatives. Because if something cannot rot, can sit there and not rot, that's a quarter pound and it's 30 years old. Wow. That is insane.
Yeah.
That's insane.
That's craziness.
Wow.
Yeah. Our food source, and I don't know about our kids. I don't follow what he says. I try not to listen to much politics.
Good for you. That's another good way to not have a heart attack.
Well, you know why? It's all, I was a hippie.
Mm-hmm.
And I grew up thinking, that anybody over 30 was the enemy.
Right.
And, it's kind of like, I remember when Kennedy was shot, I asked my dad, I was like a kid, I go, do you really think what I did? And he just looked at me, what do you think? And that was his whole answer.
Wow. Well, he knew it back then. That's interesting. Because it took until Dick Gregory brought the Zapruder film on the Geraldo Rivera show, which was, I think it was 12 years after Kennedy's assassination. then people realized that he probably had gotten shot from the front
Yeah,
because his head went back and to the left.
yeah, and I've seen that, and I remember my dad was a young Democrat, you know, and so he was involved a lot with the Democratic Party back then, and I'd ask him questions, and he never would really give me answers. He would just give me looks. You know? It's kind of like, and he knew the look. It was just like, what do you think, John? You really think somebody did that? You know, figure that out.
Yeah, not much has changed.
And that's why I don't watch. I don't, you know, I used to be very politically minded and cared about what politicians said. Any of them. I don't like any of them. Nothing.
And unfortunately, we're more aware of it now than ever before. There's less trust in politics now than there's ever been. And there's more people talking about politics than there's ever been. There's more polarization. I mean, I don't know what it was like when you were a kid, but when I was a kid, there wasn't this polarization between people that were conservative and people that were liberal. Like, you could hang out and talk to each other. They didn't hate each other. They just thought the other person was a fool for having a different opinion than them. But there wasn't hate like there is today.
Well, here's the way you gotta look at it. This is that when you used to vote, you would go inside a place and they would shut the curtains and you would vote and that was your fucking business.
Yep.
It's nobody else's business. So, like, you know, it's like, you know, I'm for anybody that's doing good. If you're doing good and you're not hurting somebody, go, man. But, you know, I'm not for cheating and, you know, I don't know morality
Yeah.
and integrity and
No, it would be nice. It would be nice.
well, it's never been that way.
No, never.
It's never been that way. I mean, in the 60s, when I was a hippie, I mean, people think that this is like really bad. No, it was really bad when fucking Russia had missiles in Cuba, and it was really bad when kids with long hair were getting shot at Kent State. I mean, it was really the separation of adults and kids. You know, there was a change that was happening. And, of course, the change happened. And all my generation did was get to the blue jeans to vote. That's about all we accomplished.
Well, the change was because it was the first generation that realized that the war that they were being sold was bullshit. You know, the people that were involved in World War I and World War II, they thought they were stopping the world from an evil dictator taking over and just ruining the world. That's what in World War II, the United States was fighting against. You can't get a more evil person that's leading an army that you want to fight against than that, right? So everybody felt like that was a just war. Came back from that war victorious. America had national pride. We did it. We're the good guys. And then all of a sudden we're in Vietnam. Like, what the fuck are we doing in Vietnam? It didn't make any sense.
What do you think the Civil War was for?
The Civil War? Well, slavery was a big one.
No.
No? Ports.
They fought. It was fought over ports. The port in Savannah, Georgia, was the biggest port in America, and the ports in Boston, New York, were struggling. And the North said, "Hey, why don't you guys send some of that our way? You guys got more than you can handle." And they said, "Fuck you, no." no, we're not sending you any of our stuff. And they just kind of went, well, then fuck you, we're going to come down and take it. But how are we going to get the American people to get behind that? Slaves.
Really?
Yeah, I have a house in the South. That's what it was about. It was about the
So
North or South.
Wow. So you think that if they had just spread the wealth a little bit, that would not have happened? Slavery would have still continued? Don't you think that? I mean, there was already a distaste of slavery because it wasn't ubiquitous in the North. But it was in the North it was. Right back then, but not in the 1860s when they were fighting slavery.
He was president.
He had slaves when he was fighting in the war?
Yeah.
I wasn't aware of that.
They weren't they spun it to be so cruel as the South was, apparently.
Well, there was more in the South, right? Because of plantations and...
Yeah.
So here it is. Abraham Lincoln never personally owned slaves. This is according to Perplexity, which is our AI sponsor, which is always very accurate. Either before or during his presidency, according to mainstream historical scholarship, claims that he had slaves through inheritance or marriage come from fringe or highly disputed sources and are not accepted by most professional historians.
That's me.
Lincoln was born in Kentucky, raised in Indiana and Illinois, all as a non-slave owner. Worked as a laborer, a lawyer, and a politician. He was a really good wrestler, too. Being related to slaveholders did not legally make those enslaved property. Best documented himself maintained in Illinois and Washington. Employed 3 servants, not slaves.
I'll call it for a second. Let me stop for a second. You can call it what you want.
Mm-hmm.
3 servants. Call it what you want.
Well, they were free,
But
and they were
was-
getting paid. It's like you said, you had a house.
Still in this
Some modern writers and websites argue Lincoln inherited or ordered. This is where the idea that slaves came from. Websites argue Lincoln inherited or ordered the sale of slaves via the Todd estate. These claims hinge on a small number of contested documents and are rejected by most specialists in Lincoln studies.
There you go.
Well, it's interesting that
The fact that we're even talking about it.
what's kind of crazy about recent ones, that's what's really crazy.
Yeah.
Two people ago.
Last name.
People lived to be 100. 1865 was roughly 2 people ago.
Yeah.
That's fucking crazy.
Well, I know. I bet you when you were in school, you thought World War II was ancient history.
Oh yeah, which is nuts because I was in high school in the 80s, right? So World War II ended in 45, which is nuts. Like,
I thought it was ancient history. I remember sitting in school class in 8th grade going, what do I need to know this shit for? You know, and I
Right.
was born in 51. So it was only like 3 or 4 years and the war had just ended. But
that's
to me,
nuts.
but to me, it was ancient history.
Isn't that crazy? Because essentially what we're talking about now is like the 1980s.
Yeah.
Well, that to us, the 1980s, like to kids today, that must be like, oh my God, fucking dinosaur days.
Yeah.
No internet, fucking big old tube TVs. It was a giant box.
Yeah.
A big one was 14 inches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I prepared at home. And I told my dad, I said, hey, Dad, if you go down the street, you got like a changer. He said, hold on. And he goes, I got a changer too. Change it to channel 4. I was the changer.
Yeah, I remember we used to have a pliers because the thing got
Broke off.
stripped. So you had to change the channel with the plier. You didn't know what channel it was until like, oh, it's CBS. All right, so we're on 5.
big.
Go like
Yeah,
this,
like those.
then you're on ABC. Go like that, you're on NBC.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where's all them
I
rare
remember the day
FGs?
cable came out. I was like, this is fucking bananas.
Yes.
Look at all these channels.
Well, I remember seeing a home box office for
Oh,
the
yeah.
first time. It was like, what on
Never
earth?
read
I even
that.
remember what movie it was. It was some Miracle Man or something. And I thought, what is this? It's past 11 o'clock and this movie's just starting. Are you kidding?
Yeah.
You
Do
kidding
you
me?
remember in the old days when the TV would sign off and the American flag would wave and it would just play music and then it would just go
And
shh.
then, well, the Indian would always show up. The
Yeah.
American
Right,
Indian would always
motherboard
show up,
advanced
and it had
deeper
like this.
pulse
"Ooh."
Yep. And then it would go to nothing. They would stop broadcasting at night.
Yeah, 11.
Yeah.
11.
Those were wild times. Cable changed everything. Home box office changed everything because when HBO came around, all of a sudden you got to see stand-up comedy uncensored. I remember the first time I watched Sam Kinison on HBO, I was like, this is fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Like, I'd never seen anything like that before. Like wild, raw
Did
comedy
you ever
on
know
TV.
Sam Kinison?
No, I never met him.
I did.
What was he like?
Wild.
Yeah, I would imagine.
He was very unpredictable, very, you know. Same
guns.
You know his story, how he became that way? Got hit by a truck when he was a little kid.
Parts there, my guy.
He was real normal. Like a normal kid. His brother Bill wrote about it. His brother Bill wrote a great book called My Brother Sam. And he said that Sam was just a normal kid, got hit by a truck, got really fucked up, bad brain injury. And then from then on, wild and reckless. Just like impossible to control, just a maniac.
Well, you could imagine. I
Yeah.
mean, you know, that's.
Is what I'm going for.
I don't know about you, but if you
Or I
grew up
could
in the
make it this.
80s, you know,
Might go with the arpeggio.
our parents used to just tell us,
Oh no, I like
outside.
the anvil.
Yeah. Yep.
go outside and go see it dark.
Yep.
You know, I could go, I was
We need
I don't know,
3 more simple components.
9, riding my bike over Seymour,
Yep.
which is where I grew up, and just nobody kept an eye on us.
No.
Nobody,
And nobody had any idea of knowing where you are either. It was just your responsibility to go home. There was no way to find you.
it was funny, they had to remind us that, remind our parents that you have kids.
Busy day.
There was a thing that said, it's 10 o'clock.
Back
You know
again?
where your children are.
Yeah. Because a lot of people didn't.
Well, they didn't.
And people would yell. They would open up the window and yell their kid's name. Billy! You would just hear it in the neighborhood. Someone
Yeah.
like rolling up their window and just screaming out the kid's name to tell them to come home. And
Yeah,
hoping the kid
I-
was in earshot.
I remember somebody in my neighborhood, I would hear it every night at dark, Henry Earl! And I'd hear it and go, I better go home. It's time for Henry Earl to go home. I better get home.
What was it like when MTV rolled around?
I didn't, I mean, I liked it. And
How long had you been performing? Wow.
You know, a little garage band, a bunch of kids playing on the records. And then I was in a band called the Great Soul. Think about this, Jim. I was 14 years old playing in bars.
Wow.
And my parents were cool with it. It's like, where's John? He's playing tonight. Playing what? He's in the Great Soul. Oh. And it was me and this black kid named Fred Booker. And we shared the vocals. And we would do, you know, we would do songs like Pull Strings and I'll Kiss Your Lips, I'm Your Puppet, I'm Your Puppet. And we had, you know, neighbor jackets on. I was cute back then. And so, you know, it was great for me. I would have done it for free because I was 14 years old making out with 18, 19-year-old girls.
Wow.
I know, it was great. Are you kidding me? And then we played at every fraternity, every sorority. And I came home with maybe, you know, over the weekend I might make 60 bucks. I was the best dressed kid at school.
Wow.
That Mellencamp kid is just a dressed up hood. That's all he is.
So did you know back then that you were going to be a professional musician, or were you doing it for fun? Did you think it was going to be a career?
I thought, here's what I thought. I'm either going to be a professional football player, a professional boxer, or a singer. That was my choice.
You boxed?
Yeah,
Yeah?
I'll whip your ass right now. At 74.
Is that why you were getting in so many fights?
Yeah, I liked it.
Wow.
I liked it. I liked the contact. Didn't like getting whipped every goddamn night.
Did you have any professional boxing matches?
No, but my son, I want to brag on my son, was National Golden Gloves champ twice.
Wow.
And then he played football for Duke. And he was, you don't mess with Hud. Don't want to mess with Hud.
And so,
he's 31 now.
when did the music thing really start taking off for you?
Well, I went to college and I got a degree in broadcasting technology, which at that time was pretty. And they would have dances at college and bands playing, and I would sit there in the audience and go, I can do this better than that. I know I can. And so as soon as I got out of college, I got into a band called the Mason Brothers, which I have so many funny stories. Like I said, I'm so lucky. I got into a band called the Mason Brothers, and we played every weekend, and I was a barroom singer. You know, I never wrote any songs or anything like that. Want to hear a funny story about the Mason Brothers, how the Mason Brothers ended?
Yeah.
This is good. The guy that ran the band, I was just a singer, and the guy that ran the band was a guy named Dave. And Dave talked to the booker, and we had a gig on a riverboat up and down the Ohio River, and it was a fraternity show. Plymouth, and a U-Haul in the back. And we get there, and the guys in the fraternity, Joe, are so fucking mad at us. Dave failed to realize that there was a time change between Seymour and Cincinnati, which is on the Ohio River. So all these fraternity guys are going, where the hell have you guys been? You're an hour late. So it really pissed me off. I go, Dave, God damn it, if you're going to run the band, you got to like keep track of this shit. He said, oh, don't worry. As time went on, and so, and you had to do 4 sets back then. You know, 4 45-minute sets, which was plenty of time for Dave to get drunk. And he would drink, and he was the bass player. And the fraternity guys already hated us. Dave's playing, and it's going on really good. And he's putting on a show, and he leaned back and, man overboard! He fucking fell off the ship, and they had to stop him fishing.
Oh my God.
So I got so fucking mad at him that he said, I said, Dave, I'm gonna quit. This is it for me. I'm done with this crap. And then Dave said, no, John, give us one more chance. And then the drummer quit because he went to medical school. And then the guitar player was still in high school.
Wow.
And he was my mom and dad's paper boy. And so Dave said, John, let me put the band back together. I'll get some new guys. And I'd call him up and I'd go, Dave, how's the band going? And he'd go, oh, it's going great, man. It's going really great. I said, good. I said, who are these new guys? He goes, you'll see when you get there. Don't worry about it. I got it covered. I said, oh, you mean like you did with the time change? And he goes, no. These guys are good. So I show up for this gig. I haven't even rehearsed with these guys. Not even rehearsed with them. But it was the same shit, you know, because we were just a cover band, and I was just a barroom singer. So, you know, if you want to see taking care of business, I'm your guy, you know. And taking care of business. You know, who can't do that?
I mean, I'm just standing there.
I show up. Dave has recruited 2 sophomores in high school who couldn't play their instruments at all. The drummer was like, it's like, boom, boom, crack, asshole, boom, boom, crack. That's all you got to do. And he was the whole fucking time. And so the show was about half.
Standing here the whole ass kitty gun.
Because it was just too much to do. And then I got it. Prostitutes and pimps and everything, you know, and homeless people, which reminds me, you guys have a lot of homeless guys.
There's a few. It's not as bad as LA.
But that isn't, you can say that about anything, Joe.
That's true, yeah. It's a lot better than it was during the pandemic. During the pandemic, they allowed them to do the camping on the street thing. So you'd go down like Caesar Chavez and you'd see like 15, 20 tents where people were just hanging out and people were trying to jog and ride the bikes past them. It was pretty bad, but former mayor cleaned it up. And they have pretty good programs here to get people into housing.
Well, everybody here must love, and I'm not putting Austin down, I played here about 3 years ago. Everybody must love graffiti. And that's the thing about graffiti. I don't mind if you want to destroy somebody else's property, but at least do something original. Because it all looks the same. You know, it's big letters and outlined in, it's done in black and outlined in yellow, and it's the same fucking shit you see in New York or Los Angeles. It's the same.
Right.
If you're gonna be an artist, be an artist.
Well, a lot of these guys are just tagging. They're just like, it's just their gang affiliation or whatever it is.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Is it that way first time I came to
No. Well, I think all cities have deteriorated, but I think Austin's deteriorated quite a bit less. We found out recently that Skid Row in LA is 50 blocks. 50. Right now. 50 blocks of homeless people just living on the streets. And like almost impassable. Like if you've ever been down Skid Row, it's fucking, I went there once accidentally. And this was in the 2000s. We were filming Fear Factor downtown in LA and took a wrong turn and wound up at Skid Row, and I was like, I couldn't believe it was real. Like, it was like a zombie movie. And that's, I mean, it's a fraction.
So you decided to do Fear Factor. You go stay in here for 3 days and you win.
It's 3 days and do no coke. Yeah, you could do 3 days with no meth and you win.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was sobering. And then we looked up the history of Skid Row, and the reason why it's like that is they would take people out of Hollywood and Beverly Hills, homeless people then, and they would put them in Skid Row and force them to stay there. And they sort of built it as a place where they could deposit vagrants and homeless people.
Well, there is a law in this country called vagrancy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Not very enforced.
Well, it'll be. Let me tell you something. If you grew up in Seymour, Indiana, it's enforceable.
Right.
Because if you stand uptown too long, which is all kids did back then,
Mm-hmm.
cops come up and go, hey, you've been here for 3 hours, we've been timing you.
This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. New Year's resolutions are great and all, but sometimes I don't want to upend my entire life to create a new and improved me. If you're feeling the same way, I've got a tip for you to let go of those big New Year's expectations and start small. Focus on one thing that's been weighing you down lately. Maybe you want to stress less about what you can control, or put less pressure on yourself at work, or reconnect with an old friend. Whatever goal you have, BetterHelp can help you get there. Therapy in general is a great way to discover more about yourself from an unbiased, outside perspective. It can really help take a weight off your shoulders. BetterHelp makes connecting with a therapist straightforward and simple. And with a network of thousands of fully licensed therapists, they can connect you with the right one, like they have for millions across the globe. According to those same people, BetterHelp works great too. Their live sessions have an average of 4.9 out of 5 rating, so do yourself a favor and try BetterHelp. BetterHelp makes it easy to get matched online with a qualified therapist. Sign up and get 10% off at betterhelp.com/JRE. That's better, HELP.com/JRE.
Yeah.
Move on.
You want to keep a nice clean town, that's how you do it.
Yeah.
But if you let it go long enough, it will be like Skid Row. I mean, and I think that what we're saying, like the documentary, what was the hotel again? That one, the Hotel Cecil. The documentary was about the Hotel Cecil, which was a beautiful hotel in downtown LA that's now a fucking disaster area. But it's in that whole area, and they couldn't figure out a way to deal with the homeless problem, but they didn't want it messing up the beauty and glamour of Hollywood. So every time they would find homeless people, they would just ship them to downtown. Downtown LA is really the only downtown of any major city that I've ever been to where nobody wants to go. Downtown New York is fucking downtown. Like, holy shit, we're downtown. Look at all the restaurants, look at all the
Yeah,
shops.
but it wasn't that way in the 70s.
Right.
The first time I went there, it was just like,
Yeah.
we went to Times Square, it was frightening.
The first time I went to New York was to fight. I was fighting in a martial arts tournament in 1980. Ooh, it had to be, I guess it was 85 or 86. And it was bad. We went through Times Square. And I was like, oh my God, I couldn't believe people lived like this. I remember the first time driving through it, I couldn't believe how big it was. I was like, this is crazy. It was so, because Boston, where I was from, was, you know, a big city, I thought. It was nothing compared to New York. I'm like, this is nuts. I couldn't believe how many streets there were, and how many buildings there were, and how tall they were. But the just the seediness of it was so strange to me.
Yeah.
You know, the peep shows and all the weird people. And I was a kid back then. I was probably 18. It was very strange.
Which was frightening.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I don't know, I got sidetracked. The first time I didn't leave my hotel room. I was in a Holiday Inn on 57th Street. And I just kind of peeked through the curtains and looked, and I mean, I was just coming off agoraphobia, and here I'm in New York because I have a meeting with some record company people, and they like to demo.
So let's go back to that. So you were your fucked up drunk friend. You quit him. How do you get back into music after that?
Oh, Dave?
Yeah.
No, I got my first record deal. The first guy I called was Dave. No, he was a great bass player. He was a great bass player.
Did he get his shit together before then? Nope. Still not?
No. I got funny stories about Dave.
Head home at the
Max's
Eastern
Is he
Station.
still around?
Yeah, he's a professor now. He found God and all this stuff.
Oh,
And
wow.
He's a professor at Vincent University. He teaches
He's a professor. Wow. What does he teach?
music.
Oh, wow.
And no, he was really handsome. Really good bass player. Really good. But he
Can't be cool anymore, but somebody else made it. One of the old buddies.
so about anything.
Yeah.
4.4.
Nothing.
So when you left Dave and you left that band, what happened next? What was like a big break for you?
It really had to be.
Well, something must have happened.
It was a slow climb.
Yeah.
A very slow climb. Yeah, I got a record deal, and of course, being me at that age, at 22, I went out to California and I met with a guy named Mike Maitland, who hated my new record but said I had great possibilities. And I took it. I just did it. And I said, motherfucker, you're an old man. What do you know about rock music? He must have been 40. And of course I got dropped immediately. I was on MCA and I got dropped immediately. But there were a couple people who said, so I got Chelsea, in Chelsea, and punk was just starting. I mean, old Flash and the Sex Pistols. I mean, they were brand new bands.
Wow.
And there I am with an acoustic guitar going, I need a lover that won't. It's like, that song became what I wanted. So, Australia was a televising rock bands, and they had a whole bunch of rock shows. And I had the #1 record, album and single in Australia, and couldn't fill up a bar in Bloomington.
Wow.
Nobody come to see me. So anyway, I went to Australia, and then a girl covered I Need a Lover, and she had a big hit with it. I mean, mine was like, went to like 30 or something.
Wow. And you were living in England?
I lived in England for 2 years.
What year was this from? 70s?
77, 76, 77.
Wow.
Yeah, the National Front was, they were like a whole bunch of skinhead guys and violent and did not want any foreigners. And even if Americans. So, yeah, you had to keep your eye, I learned how to keep your head down and your mouth shut.
Wow. And so you got out of there because of that?
No, I got out of there because I got mad at I know it's hard to believe that I got mad at somebody. I got mad at the manager because I never could get the contractor on the phone, And then I came back to the United States, and he had a record deal based on the #1 record in Australia. And I used to go, well, we have a #1 record in Australia, and they would look at me and go, not many Australians in the United States, John. So, and then it just kind of...
2 olives now. Nice.
But see what happened, and I don't mean to sound arrogant.
So, mission accomplished. Get a good goop run.
But I didn't give a fuck. I got to the point where it was like, I don't give a fuck.
37.
Do what the fuck you want.
Anyway.
Because I didn't want to be John.